Hello, it's me here once again, and I am back, this time reviewing album number 4 in my Pink Floyd album discography review, and today we are going to be looking at UmmaGumma, or UmmaGumma, however you want to pronounce it. But before we get into that, be sure to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, click the little bell down below so you don't miss any of my videos. But anyway, let's get on to it. Now, UmmaGumma was released November 7th, 1969, a double album consisting of a live and studio album. Record or disc number 1 is the live album, and record number 2 is the studio version. Now, this is produced by Pink Floyd Norman Smith. The title is said to be, I think, came up by the roadie about sex. It's a title about sex. And looking at this album as a whole, before we get into it, I think it was an idea that worked very well on paper, but I think the execution was kind of flawed and the idea was kind of flawed. Now, this was an idea floated around by Wright. I think if they would have left it just a live album, it would have worked perfectly. I think what really brought this album down was the studio album, and before we get into it, the studio album is not really a studio album. It's like 4 different guys go out, record something, and it really doesn't sound or resemble anything like a band, if that makes sense. But I'm going to get into it later. Let's start off with the live album, or should I say the stellar live album. Astronomy Domine starts it off. It's an extended version of the original. Has an eerie opening. I love the drumming. Waters and Wright are singing it. They doubled the first verse, which is different than the original. Gilmour's guitar opens the song up musically. I like the keyboard solo in the middle, and it's soft, and then it builds with bass and drums and guitar back into the song, and in my opinion, way better than the original, this version. I actually prefer this one more so. And it was 8 minutes 30 seconds, so it's about 3 minutes longer. Song number 2 on it is a new song to the Pink Floyd discography, Careful with That Axe Eugene. I like the drum and organ with soft bass intro, very jazzy sounding. Like the soft vocal Oz throughout it. Careful with That Axe Eugene is the only vocals, and then a loud scream picks up the song into some absolutely stellar guitar work by David Gilmour on it. I love Nick Mason's drumming. Mellows back into the opening and then it fades out at 8 minutes 50 seconds. Song number 3 on this is another song. This one actually I think is about almost double its original, and it's Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, one of their most popular songs probably by this point. I like the gong opening. In this they use a little crash cymbal / gong thing on stage, and to me it works very well. In this, the intro, opening, Waters vocals, Mason drumming is absolutely stellar on this whole album. I love the organ solo in the middle with the gong. I love the harshness of it. And the re-emergence of the opening riff with a slide in piano. The drum picks up the song, guitar playing the riff. And that's really the only stuff I really had to say about that. 9 minutes, 12 seconds for that one. Next song is pretty much the same as the original, kept saucerful of secrets. Once again, this is what I heard was the album was actually, the live album was all based around saucerful of secrets. So, and that they wanted that to be on the album, so is what it is. Bass opening, I love the cymbal crash once again. Organ opening, like the slide with it. Very eerie. Nick Mason's drum solo on this has always been stellar. This is, to me, one of Nick Mason's best drum solos in Pink Floyd. I love this era of Nick Mason. It kind of sounds like before he kind of became a metronome for the band. Very much so, but this works very well. Love the underneath stuff. Drums fade into the organ section. Love the underneath bass. Builds with the drum, bass into guitar. And David Gilmour's Oz at the end is amazing. If you ever listen to the live studio version of Saucerful of Secrets, you hear that choir at the end, but in this time it's a lot more harsher with Gilmour going, ah, do, 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 ah. Just great stuff. Now we're getting on to, I think, what most people here want me to talk about. The studio album, or what I should say is 4 different writers of 4 different types of music that really didn't work well. Now let's get into it. Sysyphus is Richard Wright's contribution, has 4 parts. I'll go through it. Sysyphus Part 1 has a haunting opening with keyboards, drum, and gong. It's very short, but I like that it's very short. Part 2 has some nice keyboards, nice piano. It kind of ventures into Zappa avant-garde territory. And to me it works, but it is once again very short. Now we get into Part 3, the longest one, which I believe is like 6 or 7 minutes. The whole song together is 13 minutes, 28 seconds. The weirdness continues, very avant-garde for Part 3. Part 4, I mean, is actually the longest part to this. Nice feel to start, very outdoorsy feel to it. Slight slide on it, and it has the Pink Floyd bird chirp. To anyone who knows Pink Floyd around this time, that bird chirp is very evident in a lot of Pink Floyd stuff. Turns very harsh with the drums and gong. Builds. The first part reemerges to close the song out. That's Sysyphus. What I think most of this album really... Actually, you know what? I'll hold off on that. I'll come to it at the end. Now we get on to the next song, which is the Roger Waters contribution. Grantchester Meadows. The Pink Floyd bird chirp to start. The soft acoustic fades in softly, nice lyrics. Kind of sounds like a guitar solo a little bit with Waters. I know live, him and David Gilmour played this live shared acoustic on it. And it worked very well. It's a ballady sounding, acoustic softly fades out. Ends with the bug being squashed. On to song number 7, one of the longest song titles in history. Several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving to a pict. Let's see. Animal noises. Nice fast-paced hand drum part. As it plays, the animal sounds intensifies. Too many sound effects, but I do like kind of the little Scottish thing at the end they do. Now on to song number 8. Is now the David Gilmour contribution to this. Narrowway Part 1. Nice acoustic part, very upbeat, nice slide underneath. On to part number 2. Very kind of acid guitar rock sounding, with very heavy with hand drums underneath. Weird effects, no vocals. The weird effects and no vocals for me kind of ruined the groove of the entire song, and it needed a solo. I'm sorry, Dave. You needed to put something more in there. I know he said he bullshitted his way through this, which it felt like for the first 2, but here we're on to part number 3. Just a great thing. It starts very harshly with a lot of that sliding shit around his strings and shit. But then it finally, some vocals and a piano underneath. Gilmour and Wright vocals. Love the song, love the drumming. Like the slight sound of the slide, and a fucking guitar solo from David Gilmour. Amazing. Now we're on to Nick Mason's contribution to the album, the Grand Vizers Garden Party. Part 1 has a very flute-like opening, very pastoral. Nice building drum solo. Part 2, the longest one on this, is nice drums with an echo and gong. Nice organ sound after sound effects is nice. Section made it sound like it's skipping. Pencil sounding drum is annoying. Nice drum solo to end it. And part 3, the flute comes back to close out the album. Now, this is something that's going to be a critique of this album very much. So I like the idea of the 4 members writing their own stuff. The problem, it isn't a band. It isn't Pink Floyd, really, if you think about it in that way, because they're really not playing together. It's like 4 different things done differently. I know Gilmour said he bullshitted his way through the entire session. He really wasn't a fan of this. Didn't really, I think, want to do it. I know he approached Roger to kind of write some lyrics for some of his stuff, and he refused. So, yeah, Nick Mason also said he kind of bullshitted his way through it. I think Rick Wright was really up to the idea, and I think even more so Roger Waters. But looking at it as an idea, looking at it now, looking back on it, I think the band really missed the boat for what this could have been. Now, I know it's kind of very avant-garde sounding Pink Floyd, but yeah, is what it is. Trying to think of. I think if they would have left Freak, if they would have expanded the live album to include more stuff, I think it really would have worked well, and just skipped the studio. I think Pink Floyd Live's always been fantastic and a nice visual thing to see. Now let's get on to this. Best song off the album, hands down, The Narrow Way Part 3. For me, best song off the album. Hidden Gems off the album, The Narrow Way Part 1, and Grantchester Meadows. Worst song off the album, oh boy. Oh boy. I would have to say, truthfully, to me, the Grand Vizers Garden Party, I didn't care for it. Now, I'll also do this. The live album doesn't really need to be mentioned because it's spot on. If I had to grade this out of 5, I am going to give UmmaGumma a 2.5 out of 5. To me, the live album is spectacular. To the studio album, it's bad. And as Pink Floyd fan, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and even I don't sugarcoat UmmaGumma. It is something that just didn't work. And I think because that first half was so damn good of that live album, that it saved the grade from this maybe even being a 1. Or even worse, just a dud. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions on UmmaGumma. Like I said, be sure to like, comment, favorite, subscribe. Not sure when my next video is going to be up. But anyway, this is Mir once again. Peace.